I stood on the ridge, rain hammering my face, watching the flood I'd known was coming tear through the gleaming new homes that the HOA had no right to build on my land. The water roared, unstoppable, swallowing their luxury craftsman houses like a beast devouring prey. This wasn't just a storm, it was a reckoning, one I'd waited for, one I'd let nature deliver. You're probably wondering how I ended up here, a lone man watching an entire suburban dream drown, and why no one could stop it. It all began when they tried to steal what my grandfather left me. When he passed, he didn't leave me gold or cash, but something fiercer. A sprawling stretch of wild country fields that stretched to the horizon, woods thick enough to swallow secrets, and at its heart, a mountain dam he'd built with his own hands. That dam wasn't just stone and earth. It was a monument to survival, born from the ashes of a flood that had nearly erased this valley decades ago. His will was ironclad. The land, the water rights, every blade of grass was mine, no strings attached. For years, I lived quietly, working in town, spending weekends walking the dam's crest, feeling the seasons shift across the mountains. Peace, I thought, was my inheritance. Then came the letter. Crisp, official, with a gold-embossed logo from the Pine Crest Homeowners Association. I wasn't part of any HOA. Me land sat beyond town limits, shielded by zoning fights my grandfather had won long ago. But the letter claimed my property was now under their community review, thanks to new county maps slipped through a council meeting I'd never heard of. My stomach twisted. At the next town hall, I saw him, Victor Hensley, HOA president, all slick smiles and perfect teeth, flashing colorful maps that carved my land into their shiny new development like it was never mine. I stood, furious, demanding answers. Victor just tilted his head, feigning confusion, and said it was a survey error, already corrected. The room felt colder. I left with dread curling in my gut. The invasion came fast. Surveyors trampled my fields without a word. Neon stakes sprouted like weeds, marking where my grandfather's pastures would become asphalt. Bulldozers roared in, gouging roads through the land where I'd learned to ride horses. Before I could blink, 58 homes were rising luxury, they called them, with banners boasting wealth and progress. I fought back. I hired a lawyer, Tom, a good man with sharp eyes, but even he flinched at the names on the paperwork. County clerks dodged me. My complaints vanished into thin air. Victor smirked at every protest, his board members nodding like obedient shadows. They painted me as the lunatic, the backward fool clinging to old deeds while progress marched on. At the second town meeting, Victor had the gall to suggest, in a voice dripping with fake pity, that I take their generous buyout before I got left behind. I stood, voice steady, and swore I'd never sell what my family built. Not for any price. That's when it turned ugly. Violation notices littered my truck. Fines for nonsense code breaches piled up. One morning, I found a sign in my yard. Future Development Zone. No trespassing. My own land. Even the sheriff's deputy shrugged, calling it a civil matter. Every door slammed shut. Victor wasn't just playing dirty, he was rigging the game. A clerk at the county office, one of the few who didn't look away, tipped me off. Pinecrest had been funneling cash to council members, buying zoning exceptions and inspection waivers. I was outmatched, outvoted, outgunned. Their lawyers buried me in threats, claiming I was harassing them by fighting for my own land. So I did what no one expected. I went quiet. I stopped showing up to meetings. I let their flag stay in my fields. I nodded when Victor waved from his gleaming black SUV, his smile sharp as a blade. And while they celebrated, selling lots and breaking ground like conquerors, I built my case in silence. Photos of every illegal bulldozer track, every ignored wetland, every tree they tore down. Recordings of their smug conversations. Copies of every shady zoning approval I could unearth. My grandfather's old workshop under the dam became my war room, stacked with evidence. I watched them pour millions into homes they didn't understand, laying pipes in unstable soil, building mansions over ancient flood basins without a single survey. They thought they'd won. They didn't know the land doesn't bend to blueprints. They didn't know my grandfather's dam, built to tame a killer flood 80 years ago, was the valley's silent guardian. That flood had drowned families, erased homes, left nothing but grief. My grandfather, a young man then, had fought it with sandbags and lost. He swore it would never happen again. Over years, he carved that dam into the mountain stone, earth, timber, and sheer will. It held. For decades, while other counties drowned, our valley stayed dry. But people forgot. The dam became just a hill to the HOA, something to pave over. They were fools. They rerouted creeks, filled drainage channels, and one day I'll never forget sent a backhoe to claw at the dam's shoulder. Not deep, but enough to wound it. I watched from the trees, fist clenched, wanting to scream, to fight. But I didn't. I saw their blindness, their arrogance. They thought they owned the mountain. They didn't know water always finds its way. So I waited. I stopped patching the dam's leaks. I let silt clog its channels. I let nature simmer. While they barbecued on new patios and lit their streets with solar lamps, I walked the dam's edge, noting every crack, every sag where their machines had bitten too deep. I didn't break the dam, that would have been a crime. I just stopped saving it. The rains came early that fall, pooling in their perfect lawns. Winter bled into a brutal spring, and the dam groaned under the weight. Their storm drains choked. Their lawns slid into mud. They held meetings, slapped on quick fixes, and ignored the truth. The mountain didn't care about their deeds. The first big storm hit like a warning shot, steady and cold. I sat on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the valley vanish behind a wall of rain. Below, Pinecrest's lights blinked weakly. I knew the clay would swell, the topsoil would crack, and the dam, tired and scarred, wouldn't hold. Water pooled where their drains failed, creeping into basements. I passed Victor's mansion, all columns and glass, and saw him in the window, yelling into his phone, blaming everyone but himself. Crews scrambled with sandbags, digging trenches that only made it worse. It was almost poetic, their empire crumbling under a drizzle. 3 days later, the second storm roared in, mean and personal. The air felt heavy, electric. The dam's leaks widened, spitting mud. I stood on the ridge, wind lashing me, and felt the earth shake. The dam didn't explode outside, then broke. Water surged, a furious beast, tearing down the mountain, shredding trees, and hitting Pinecrest like a hammer. Homes vanished. Roofs floated like debris. Streets split open, swallowing cars. Victor's mansion held for a moment, proud and defiant. Then the ground liquefied. His house cracked, tilted, and collapsed, its columns snapping like bones. It was over in minutes. Emergency crews waded in, too late, their radios useless against the mountain's wrath. I watched, dry and calm, my heart steady. I'd warned them. Months ago, I'd filed notices about the dam's condition, the risks of their greed. I had receipts, notarized and safe. Their insurance claims? Denied. Act of God, the adjuster said. Negligence, the lawyers hissed. Victor tried to sue every name included. Nothing stuck. His own approvals, his own corruption, drowned him. Pinecrest faced lawsuits from homeowners, contractors, even the state. Victor's name became a joke, his SUV repossessed, his empire mud. I stayed quiet. Within a year, I reclaimed the land through adverse possession. No one fought Methy were too broken. I rebuilt the dam, stone by stone, with old-timers who knew the land's truth. We let the fields go wild, let the creeks run free. I sank a cedar post by the road, a sign carved with pride. Welcome to Stone Valley. We respect the land. Below, my motto, built by nature, guarded by memory. On the dam's new crest, I sat with my coffee, the valley gold under the sun. The scars of Pinecrest faded, swallowed by grass. I thought of my grandfather, his hands shaping this land. I thought of Victor, broken by his own lies. The mountain hummed, satisfied. I raised my thermos to the past, to the land, to the flood that gave it back. Justice had come, not with a lawyer's pen, but with water's unforgiving truth.